I'm Chris Mallika Bhadra, and I again welcome you all to another episode of Chai Chat and Community on Word Palette. Tonight, we talk about something that's very interesting and something that's very close to my heart because I've done that quite a few times. I'm talking about solo traveling. I have traveled solo myself, and I absolutely love my experiences so far. And luckily, tonight I'm joined with two people who have their set of experiences to share with me and with all of you, and they absolutely love what they do while they've traveled by themselves in various parts of the world. Right? Before I take much time, I would love to introduce my guests for the night. I'm joined by Aritra Mondol from Melbourne and Anwesha Ghosh all the way from Kolkata, India. Aritra and Anwesha, thanks guys for doing this and thank you for being on with me tonight. How are you guys doing, first of all?
I'm okay. Just not in the best mood because things are going crazy. There is all sorts of anxiety and all. My brother at the
Yeah.
moment is. I was just saying this, like, tested positive yesterday, so that's a bit of worry. And in general, I think it's just yeah.
Yeah.
Don't know. It's just mixed kind of blah.
I understand. Yeah, it's not a good
Yeah.
time we are living in. Anwesha,
No,
how are
no.
you?
Same here, same here. Earlier when it was just after wave one for India, it was more like, when is travel going to start again? But then now it's just things are so worrisome that, it's on the media. It's hard to avoid it, kind of a thing. So all we can do is hunker down and, reach out to our near and dear ones and just stay in touch. And if they need help, kind of reach out.
Of course.
So I hope the world gets better soon.
Oh, fingers crossed for that. But before I move on to our chat, I would really like you guys to tell us something about yourself because our listeners want to know about yourselves too. So, Aritra, I'll start with you. Please tell us about yourself.
Okay. What am I? Well, I could go on and on. Just a regular Bengali fellow who moved to Melbourne 20, no, 10, 13 years back or something. Yeah. And since then, I'm here. I work in a bank, boring job, but it pays my bills, let me travel. Yeah, well, that enough? Or just love eating, traveling, watching movies, spending monies, daydreaming, sleeping. Usual, nothing special. Yeah, just
That's a long list. That's a
just a
long
long
list,
list.
Aritra.
Yeah.
That's
Not very good in doing intro, but
Anvesha,
It is a hard
that's
question, I must
perfect.
say.
Anvesha, will move on.
But basically, I studied in India, then did my PhD from the US, stayed there for 8 years, and then came back to India. So it's mixed perspective from both sides. I certify myself as a nerd. I love D&D. I love board games. I love books. Everything to do with gaming, video games, and I love traveling. And interestingly enough, I found a way to combine both. So I'm hoping to use some of that into the conversation that we'll have. So looking forward to
So,
this.
when you mentioned that you finished your PhD, so should we refer to you as Dr. Ghosh now?
Yes, you can. As I believe, Chris, right?
All right, we'll get there. All right, Aritra and Anvesha, thank you for those intros, but I'll come to you, Aritra, first. Tell us about your traveling experiences, right? You've traveled, I know for a fact that you travel solo and you love your travels. And also, how do you rate your solo traveling over when you've traveled with a bunch of
sorry, you broke. I think my connection could be bad, but what I understand the question is, I'm just repeating because so that I know that you what your question is, because it was breaking a little bit. You were asking like traveling solo versus with someone that I know, like what's the difference or what
Yeah,
I enjoy. Is
yeah,
that what the question is?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Look, I mean, to be honest, like I don't I don't particularly like choose to travel solo. It's just happened few times. I'll tell you why though, because I do have a big friend circle, but when everyone has got their own life and routine, right? To go to a big trip somewhere, like I'm not talking about weekend trips or trips around Melbourne and all. Those are like very easy to organize. But if you're when you are like aiming a little bit further, like you want to go to Europe or somewhere else. In Australia is so far away. Everything is like far away, right? So when you're trying to do that kind of trip, you obviously want to go for a longer period of time because
Yeah.
if you're traveling like 13-hour flight, you want to spend as much time as possible there, and the flights are expensive from Australia, so you want to spend at least 2-3 weeks there. So
Yeah.
sometimes like the solo travel, it started because how do I find everyone's time routine, everything just coincide so that you can all go together. I would love to go with my friends, but sometimes it's not possible. And then because everyone has their own routine, they're like, oh, I can't take leave now, I'll do these things. So you obviously don't want to deprive yourself, like, oh, because like there's like a joke, right? The Goa plan joke that everyone says, like, how hard it is to plan a group trip to Goa.
Exactly.
So I think any that applies to pretty much any trip, to be honest. Now, like when everyone is busy with their own lives, so that's how I think I started solo traveling, because I thought, like, oh, I don't really. I mean, it would love someone to tag with me, but if it doesn't happen. Why I should deprive myself, because there's so much to see and the clock is ticking, right? I'm like going to be 40 next year, so I have a long list of places to go. So that's the one reason I started. But then once I did 1 or 2 trips, and then I realized this is great. I don't need anyone. I mean, like, this is like I can do whatever I want to do. I don't have to wait for anyone, because I do remember my first Europe trip. I was traveling with 2 girls, and to be honest, they drove me mad. They, like, in the morning, they can't wake up early. Then they will take forever to get dressed, do whatever the rituals and all, and then they will wear heels. I mean, don't know why. And then they will complain like, "Oh my God, I can't walk. I mean, I need to, like, I'm like, God, like, I want to travel, explore the city by foot, go to this laneway, go to that laneway," and they're like, "Oh, can't walk, can't walk." So many things, and then they will, like, so many specific. I'm just not generalizing all girls, but
Yeah.
that experience, like, drove me mad. I'm like, ugh. So, um, and then when I was traveling by myself, like, I don't have all these problems because I am my boss. Like, if I don't have to live up to anyone else's expectation. If I don't like something, it's my decision. Like, oh, okay, I went there, but didn't turn out as I thought. I don't have to answer to anyone. No one will tell me, like, oh, you took me to this museum and it was horrible, because no one is like going to dictate what you decide.
Yeah.
And I think in general, I just enjoy traveling solo. But by solo, I have to clarify though. By solo, I mean I'm traveling without someone who I know. But then the trip doesn't remain solo though, because you meet people, you talk to people,
Yeah.
you mingle with other people. So it's not really like, it's not like you are just there without interacting with any other human being throughout the trip. That's not true. It's just you happen to be with some, like, not with someone like who you have known from beforehand.
Yeah.
But then a lot of the time I go to trips, and then like the entire trip is not solo. For example, if I go to London, New York, Amsterdam, I have friends there, so I do catch up with them. But it's not that I'm the entire time with them. So it's a little bit balanced. So I catch up with them. They take me to this one, but then few other days I'll be exploring it all on my own. So I like that mixing, matching there, because that then you just you get to see your friends, catch up with them. They can be a local guide, but you can also do other stuff on your own. So yeah, I think
All
that's
right.
what I feel I enjoy solo traveling. Having said that, one of my last trip, I was in India with a big group of friends. It was after a wedding, and I had so much fun because I was with a lot of friends, and I
I
also
saw
equally
your
enjoyed.
pictures. I
Yeah.
saw your pictures.
So
We have a question from Darshan. Darshan, hi, thanks for tuning in. And I guess it goes for both of you. So, doesn't it get annoying to ask someone random to click a photo of yours whenever you travel solo? Or throw your thoughts on that, and then we'll move on to Anwesha.
sure. My thoughts on that, because no, it doesn't, because I don't take my photos. If you've seen my Instagram or Facebook, you will never find a photo of myself in front of anything. I hate being in front of the camera. I don't take selfie. I honestly don't take selfie. And so it doesn't get annoying for me because I don't ask anyone. I would rather take other people's photos. I actually do a lot of street photography. I take a lot of people of the locals. I take a lot of photos of other people. I don't know. Yeah. So I like even like sometimes I go to all these places or any weekend trip and all. Is no none of I'm not in any of the photos. And people ask like, did you even go? I'm like, yeah, I did. I took all these photos. I just not in these photos because I don't like in the photo. So that question doesn't apply to me, but maybe Anwesha can answer.
I can try. So I agree with you where I prefer to kind of capture the moment when I'm traveling, kind of like take what the situation is, what I am seeing. I try to take one picture at least with me in there so people can't say, hey, you've kind of stole it from Google or something of that sort. And I do hate people who have selfie sticks. I think it's the bane of tourism. I hope they are vanished. But then it's just, the idea is to be in the moment as well. So for me, it's more about just being there, sitting there. If I see a selfie stick, I will break it if it's near my nose. So not a bad.
Selfie sticks are annoying, and yeah, I think the photographers, like a lot of the touristy photographers, they could be annoying too. Like they just hog the scene. Like they will not let you. Like for example, you are in a museum, they will like block your view because they are taking a group shot or whatever, or you have to like wait for them to like stop till they pass. Like yes, it could be annoying the photographers, and I had some bad experiences with like how terrible like the tourist could be and hog. I remember I was in a Hallstatt in Austria. It's a beautiful, pretty village on a lake, but there's like this huge group of tourists, and the way they just ruin the serenity and the tranquility of the place with like noise, photos, doing all this stuff. I mean, like, look, you are allowed to enjoy your traveling because you paid and all, but just be considerate of other people around you. So that was annoying. So I don't want to be that person and ask someone to take my photo either.
All right. I'll take one comment from Aniruddha. Hello, thank you for tuning in all the way from Zurich. Aniruddha says one often discovers different facets of oneself when one has the time and space for it. Yes, perfectly correct. I agree. And if I can quickly answer Darshan's question, I feel very open and honest. I'll go up to anyone and say, "Can you please take a picture for me?" And the people have ended up taking multiple shots. Can you please take it? This perfect, this fine. So I'm very comfortable that way.
Well, I do it for others. Like, when the people will approach me, because sometimes I will have a big camera with me, like not professional, but you know what I mean, like those Canon ones.
Semi-professional.
And yeah, it's like sometimes, like not always, because sometimes I don't take my big camera because I just want to enjoy the moment and all. When I do have, people will approach you. They'll think like you're a photographer because you happen to have like a fancy camera. Like anyone can have a fancy camera with them. They're not necessarily photographer. But, people will think like, oh, this guy looks like he will take a good photo because he has got a good camera with him. So they will approach me, and I am more than happy to take their photos. Not a problem. So that's fine. But I personally don't ask people to take my photos. I just don't.
Very modest you two are. Yeah. Very, very modest you two are. All right, Anwesha, I'll move on to you now. Aritra just mentioned a whole different facet of traveling with women, like their shoes and their different tantrums, what they throw. Again, I'm not generalizing. Could be a few people. Coming to you, have you faced the other side of issues? Like as a woman, as a solo women traveler, have you faced any kind of, because the reason I asked is I happened to watch this movie called Berlin Syndrome. It just shook my internals outside. It was bad. Has something like that happened to you? Got forbidden, or have you experienced anything happening to another fellow woman traveler?
It's a good question. Thankfully speaking, I've had nothing that scarred me because I was in the US for 8 years, and then now I'm in India, and I do enjoy traveling. And before that, of course, I've been to a few other countries, sometimes because of internships and things like that. What I've realized as a woman traveler is it is totally context specific depending on which country you're going, what culture there is. So, for example, the experience that would come from traveling within the US is drastically different from what you would expect in India. because it's culturally different. The expectations from women are different, and so say for example, if I'm going out in the US, I won't hesitate as much to go out after midnight, do a road trip by myself. Whereas in India, so I'll give you a contrast. Basically, I've done road trips here in India as well. I even though it's me by myself, I always make sure I have at least a chauffeur. I'm renting a car that has a chauffeur that comes with it. Why? Because at the end of the day, say suppose if something goes wrong, it's good to have somebody to back up, especially since sometimes travel does take us to places which are comparatively emptier. Like something that really brought up my fear level was basically this case that happened in Hyderabad. I think a couple of years ago, where this girl basically she was going through like probably a place couple of toll booths away from where I lived. And it looks like and she was going by scooter. And apparently her, scooter tire gave way because she had parked it somewhere. She came back and she saw it was a flat tire. Some truck drivers apparently saw her, and then stuff happened. Bad things happened to her, and that
Yeah.
scared a lot of us, especially who live women who live by ourselves, etc. So that's where sometimes it's about common sense as well. Informing either friends or family that I'm going out, so that if I'm not coming back or I'm not responding in a certain time, at least somebody's looking for me. Pepper sprays are always in my bag, but it totally depends totally on where I'm going, timing, etc., etc. But I do want to travel. I am proud of my independence, so I still try to take as much precaution as possible. And I'm not one of those heel wearing people, so I'm a hardy traveler by myself. But it's kind of like I like to keep certain checks in place while I'm going out, according to the situation, as much as possible. I do wish things were easier, but yeah.
That reminds me
Darshan
of
has
that
a
scene.
question.
Sorry, that was remind me of that scene in the film Queen. When Kangna went to Amsterdam and checked into the hostel.
Exactly.
No, but she was so funny. Not that Amsterdam is unsafe, but she was like fake pretending to call her friends. Oh, you're going to come to my room tonight to check on me, just to let the other guys know that
She's,
she,
yeah.
that scene was so funny. Her comic sense was
So
superb in that one. But I can relate like what you're saying. Like in reality, like it's not funny. It's actually
Yeah.
could be quite challenging. Yeah.
All right. Darshan has a question, which ironically was my next topic of conversation for you both too. Is how long is your ideal solo trip, and what factors influence it? Aritra, we'll start with you first.
Okay. So again, like, look, I mean, it depends on everyone's style of traveling. Like, I generally don't like rushed, hurried kind of traveling. I like to take it slow. Like, for example, any place that I like to go and experience, like, depending on obviously the size of the place, right? You have an approximate idea. You do some research beforehand, like, this is the place I'm going. You read a little bit about it. That will give you an idea, like, what all things you want to see in that place or explore about that place. And then you approximately decide like how much time you need, right? But then other factor I put is like I'm just a bit so what, like I don't have the tick list. Like for example, if you go to Paris, I want to go to this, and that's all I'm doing, like running after like one tourist attraction to another one, then another one. Then how am I going to experience the city itself as as locals do, like as much as I can. I want to try as the locals do. I don't want to like moving from one tourist spot to another tourist spot, and that's definitely not my style of traveling. So that's why I generally put enough time to explore the city. And I know from my initial couple of trips that I just get distracted very easily. Like, for example, I am going to one spot. Like, oh, today I'm going to check out this particular museum or something, say some neighborhood. And then once I go there, that neighborhood is so pretty. There's like this laneway goes there. That I'm like, oh, I'll take a detour. I'll go there. I'll go there. So that I will like, then I will spend a lot more time than I expected. So I need to factor those in. And then like other things like, the weather. You have to factor in the weather, right? Because Like I remember I went to Edinburgh, and the one day it was just like non-stop. It was like pouring with rain. So basically that day I couldn't do much apart from like few things. So I have to make up for that, right? So if I only had spent say 2 days in Edinburgh and one day is like that, then the next day I'll not be able to see a lot of other places. So you need to keep some buffer. It's up to you. I generally keep buffer, knowing that there will be bad weather days and all. And then other things is like also like sometimes I go to a city and I really like the place. So like I had a croissant in like a small cafe. I want to go back there again because that croissant was so good. And I don't know when I'll come back to that city, like in my
Yeah.
lifetime or not. I don't. I want to go back there again. So all these little things I generally put like a little bit more time because I want to experience this like slowly, enjoy it, like sit down at like a cafe or like watch people, going by and also all those things. So it really depends, like how much time I want to spend, and also depending on the place I'm going. Like for example, New York is like huge, so you need a lot more time than if you're going to Salzburg, which is probably relatively like smaller place, so you can cover it within 3 4 days. So this is, I'm sorry, I can't really give you like a one straight answer because it's really depend where you're
Yeah.
going and what you're gonna do. So,
Yeah.
but just think about what you're gonna do and how you want to do it, and accordingly plan. Yeah.
Anwesha,
And
moving on to you. Your ideal solo trip and factors that you want to count in.
I would agree that I am a leisurely traveler as well who wants to experience culture. The one factor that plays a big role about how long the vacation is, ideally speaking, if I could, I would take a month long vacation or at least a week long vacation. But, having worked in US and now with US companies, I can tell you vacations are hard to come by, extremely hard to come by. So the least I try to do is at least make long weekend or weekend trips so that I'm able to travel for longer. And again, I completely agree with, I I go by planning rather than a plan. The reason why is because when I'm there, of course, I want to go with the flow. But just to help me out, what I typically do is on my Google Maps has pins across different locations. I load it with stuff that I've heard others talk about, travel blogs, something that I found online, etc., etc. I mean, that is the general vague idea. Once I get there, it's about the mood. It's about who I run into, whether I want to go back to the same place again the next day versus find something else. What's vibing with me? So that's what I try to do to plan around it. If I could, I would like to take a month long, but the maximum I've been able to take is a week.
No, yeah, yeah, I know.
The
Time
money
is
is a
difficult.
factor too, though. Money is a factor too because I mean I'm not the richest of the person, right? So I have to factor that in as well. Like I'd love to stay like 4 weeks in New York, but then can I afford it? That's the other
Yeah.
thing, right? Yeah. So I need to like seek how much comfortably I can spend in one place and all. So I think that plays a big factor as well. Yeah.
Yes. So
Absolutely.
time and
And
money.
if you have friends or not, right? Whether
Oh
you
yeah, I
can,
tried to go and live with friends. Like New York, London, Amsterdam, I was okay. Like three of the expensive cities. Luckily, I had friends. I never had to pay for hotels. But I'm just giving an example. Like but other things like if you're traveling every day, you'll be eating out and doing something else. So how long? Like you know, I mean, I have been burned before with huge credit card bills. So I'm just a little bit more cautious now about that factor as well.
We have another comment from my mom. She says, "Interesting discussion. Always, it's better to travel solo rather than requesting others to." Thanks, Ma. Thank you. Thanks for watching. All right. You guys have been talking about locals, feeling the local way when you're in the city, right? So probably I want to know it next from you guys is how has your how has your experience been while interacting with the locals of say a specific place? Was it good? Was it bad? Were they helpful? Did they keep their arms open while introducing a guest into their local place? How was your experience? And Visha, I'll start with you first.
I would say for the most part, it's always been good. But of course, there are weirdos in place as well. So, in general, what I like to do is I typically like to stay in hostels rather than hotels. Simply because you run into people closer to your age group who are out there traveling from different places. And of course, like, when I'm at a particular place, I like to go to the local coffee shop or bar and just, start talking to locals. I myself, I'm an extroverted introvert. So sometimes it becomes a little hard for me to immediately open up. To the beauty with travelers is there are so many extroverts out there, they come talk to you. And that establishes the entire thing. So in general, I like to just ask people for recommendations that I run into, especially locals. Like, what is that one restaurant that you're like, oh my god, you should go? Those recommendations are always the best. But of course, again, it totally depends on the vibe. If you're seeing somebody who's acting a little shady, who's kind of like asking you those typical questions like, how long are you going there, which hotel are you in, and stuff, it's better to avoid people like
Yeah.
that. I think, just open your eyes and go around and you should be fine.
Nah, sure. At least from a woman perspective, I agree. Or your experience with the locals, is there any country or
Yeah,
place you've been to?
I didn't have any bad experience. I mean, there might have been one or two unpleasant experiences, but the fact that nothing is coming to my mind means they were like trivial. So that says a lot. But interesting, lot of interesting incidents like has that. That's what I love it, right? When you're solo traveling, you can get to experience these things. Like, I don't know, it's like more likely to happen with you because if you are with someone you all automatically are in a bubble, so you're kind of like protected from that whatever that weirdness that happens. It's unlikely to happen with you. But if you're like by yourself, you will make mistakes, you would take risk, and that will lead you to all these funny interesting situations. Like I remember I was in Prague. um, I was like explored the city, went to this neighborhood, then I'm having drinks, and I went to this bar, which was a gay bar, and then I'm like drinking, and then people are like extremely friendly in that bar. I'm like, oh, I mean, people generally in Prague was pretty friendly, but that bar was like people are like just really friendly. They will come and talk to you. They're like even like hey, how are you going? And then I realized that's actually a place where the male prostitutes they pick up their clients. That's why they're like extra friendly to you because they want to show how they're willing to they're like
Yeah.
basically looking for clients and all. So I got to know that after after half an hour or so, like that I got to see that vibe and all. But was it a bad experience? I don't think so. I actually quite enjoyed the attention. I also like it was an experience. Like I got to know like oh, this is how things are happen in Europe. Like it's quite open for all these male prostitute or female prostitute. I didn't go to regular bar to pick up their
Yeah.
client from a bar. I mean, I found that quite interesting and fascinating, and I mean that added to my experience. Um, Sorry, I'm deviating from the questions. The locals, it's hard to tell, who is local and who is not, because a lot of the places I go, they are equally very touristy, like Europe, and also it's something hard to know, like people I'm interacting. Like sometimes I get to know that they are local, but a lot of the times the people I am interacting with, they are also like are like me, like traveling. So it's hard to know whether they are actually local or not. And then in London, New York, Amsterdam, I had friends living there. Like I'm living in Melbourne, they have settled there, so they will be my local guide. But are they local? I don't know because I feel like they're not from that place, but they have been living there for long, so they definitely like bring that localness with them. So, yeah, I think my experience so far has been pretty good. I mean, there's no unpleasant one or anything. But as I said, like, sometimes I don't know whether they are really local or they are just like me. Yeah, but just in like
So,
a lot of that.
would you term them as pseudo locals who are there for a while but
No,
who are not
I
completely
think
there?
I think they are just like, for example, it could be like say for example, if I bumped into someone in say Denmark, right? They are not from Denmark, but they are like traveling. But it's like they have been traveling there longer than I have. So say
Yeah.
so they can give me a lot other tips and all because they have been there say 3-4 days before me. So they have already gone to this place, that place. So they give you all this recommendation, which is also I think equally important, right? But what I meant is like, I don't know where like everyone I interact from that place, whether they are by definition of local, I mean like, and I don't know whether they actually live there, the whole year or not. So that's kind of people I have interacted little bit, but not so much, because a lot of the people I interact, sometimes they are just travelers like me. Yeah.
Yeah, got it. All right, I'm very mindful of the time, guys. So I think we are closer to the end of the chat. And one thing that I really want to know, because I get asked this question quite a few times, and I want to kind of buzz the myth here, right? So, do you guys feel, in your own sense and experiences, that solo traveling somewhere brings a bit of loneliness? Is there a ring of loneliness or solitude in it, or we just do it out of happiness, and it's a way of kind of coming in touch with yourself? What do you guys think? I'll start with Anwesha and the knowledge.
Sure. According to me, I don't think it is a disadvantage. I mean, it totally depends on how you are envisioning that travel to be. If I want basically a group of friends, the whole plan would change according to that. I'm not going to go pursue my interest and would rather be doing something that's common. Similarly, if I want to go to a place, say for example, I want to go to Vietnam, I want to cross off a few at least of the checklist that I'm interested in that I know somebody else won't. In that case, it's much easier to at least, if not travel by myself, at least find some solo time to do traveling within there, because it's much better. I mean, the whole idea is, if you are with a romantic partner, again, it doesn't take away the opportunity to do solo travel as well, because I'm sure we all are, we are not exactly completely paired with our friends or completely paired with our partner. So there are certain things that would satisfy ourselves that would probably bore the other person or annoy the other person. So I think it's totally a legitimate way.
No, but generally, if I have to speak, why do we need to attach solo traveling with, the obvious state that this person must be lonely in life? Just because that person is traveling solo, why do we have to generalize this concept? Aritra, what are your thoughts on this?
I think, I mean, it's again brings to me, like, it depends on the person, right? I mean, like, look, I mean, why I'm going on traveling, like, first you have to find out what is the reason behind the travel, right? So if you are going to travel because you want to enjoy with your friends, but in a different place, then that's your choice. I travel because I want to explore, find a new place. And why do I need another person to be on my burden? I'm not saying burden as a negative way, right? But I'm trying to say, like, if I want to spend time with my friends, I can go to brunch with them, dinner with them, catch up with them in Melbourne. If I'm going somewhere else, I mean, as much as possible, I would like to dedicate that whole time to explore that place, rather than giving my attention will be divided, right? Because if you have someone with you, it's nice, but sometimes, like, it could be burden in the sense, like, you have to entertain themselves, they have to entertain you, you have to do things together, and all these factors and all. I'm there. My reason is there to know that place or explore that place. This friend I can catch up in Melbourne. I can have a brunch. I can just spend a whole afternoon with that person in a cafe or whatever, have a sleepover. I don't want to go travel all the way halfway across the globe to have fun with someone. If it happens, it happens. But my reason is different. But having said that, everyone's reason is different. I remember a friend who went on a month-long traveling, like 3-4 months, and he quit ANZ and took a sabbatical and went. And towards the end, he felt really lonely, and he came back and he immediately started dating, because he said, like, oh, I realized during my travel, like, I'm so lonely. I don't want to end up like this. So that's his choice. Like, that actually brought some realization in his life that he needs a partner. He did, up until then, he didn't realize he needed a partner. The travel made him realize, like, it could be lonely. And he said when he was watching the Northern Lights in Iceland, he wished he could share it with some close partner or something. That's his choice. Like, that triggered that thought in him, like, I need to come back and start dating, which he did. Now he's happily married with a kid. So it's really up to the people. Like, I feel like I need to, my reason for traveling is different, but I can totally understand people want to share a beautiful place with their loved ones.
Yeah.
So it's up to them. Yeah.
Right. Salia has a question for us. What about traveling solo in India? Is it safe? Anwesha, your thoughts, and then Aritra.
things have changed since how things were when I left India 10 years ago, or even people who've tried that even 20 years ago. Like as a child, like my family was always into traveling, so I've always traveled in every single vacation up till college. And the experiences that I had there I had the safety of my parents always with me when I'm traveling. I would say when I compare to that India is doing much better, much better.
Okay.
The idea of now again, that's where the whole contrast between urban and rural areas come into place. Urban cities like, say, for example, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mumbai, even Delhi, in some sense, and it's a little controversial sometimes, but they are more used to women being like
Out there.
out there by themselves traveling, etc., etc. That being said, again the idea comes back to having the basic like safety nets in place, because it just takes one split second for something bad to happen. So I would say I definitely have had better experiences than when I went for an internship back in college. So I have traveled quite a bit, and I had basically done a road trip from Kolkata, from Hyderabad to Kolkata during the pandemic with my dog. And my God, the national highways are so much better, so much better. But that being said, would I feel safe doing it completely by myself and not with a driver? What if there is a flat tire somewhere in the middle of nowhere? It's for situations like that. For the most part, nothing will happen. But why? It's better to
Yeah.
create kind of checklists and then do it, is my opinion.
Aritra, your traveling solo travel experiences in India?
I haven't traveled. I mean, I have. I think I can't remember India. I mean, not nothing major. Actually, I haven't traveled that much in India, to be honest. My travel in India is very limited. I might have done solo trip, but maybe very like day trips or something like that. And to be honest, I shouldn't be commenting on this because, as I said, my experience, my solo traveling in India does not give. There's not enough traveling involved to say or comment. And as you know, this whole aspect, India or lot of the parts of the world, it's women who are feel like men generally we are privileged not to experience this kind of discrimination or unsafety or even scary. I know how women get scared in India or in a lot of places. Men are generally will not get scared, so that will not make you feel uncomfortable. Sometimes it's not just safety, but it's just that weird look sometimes you get if you are by yourself somewhere, a
Yeah.
woman, they will get stared at, or people will look at them, and that will make them feel uncomfortable. Or luckily for my male privilege, I haven't have to go through this in India, so my experience in this regard is like nothing consequential, I guess. Yeah.
All right, we have a question, or rather a statement from our friend, very good friend Anupriya. Anupriya, thank you for tuning in. She talks about how about the memories while traveling with family or friends. Those can be special, of course. When we reminisce that first outing with college or high school friends, maybe a special beachy vacation with our siblings and cousins, right? So now, very quickly, guys, how about making those special memories with your friends? What about group travel experiences? Orithro and then Anwesha.
Yes, yes. I mean, travel, it's full of memories, right? If you are with people, without people, all the little things that has happened to you. Sometimes they involve people, sometimes they don't involve people. Sometimes they involve your friends, sometimes they involve strangers. I mean, they're all fascinating, right? And that's what I'm saying. When you think about them when you're lying down, especially in these times, when you can't travel, I just keep
Yeah.
on going to my old journals or my Instagrams or something, and I keep on posting, some old travel pics, because that's what we have to
Yeah.
contain ourselves with. So yeah, I mean, totally, I mean, all for solo traveling, but we're saying it's all these memories, they involve strangers, they involve your friends. Like the group trip I had in India, after that wedding, in a big bus, all friends and all, that was amazing. That was amazing. and we still like connect with that group. Still have that WhatsApp group from that trip, and we chit chat and all. We share memories and stuff like that. It's amazing. Yeah. So
Anwesha, your thoughts?
For me, I enjoy all kinds of travel as well. I've traveled with my family. I've traveled with friends. It's just the expectations are different when it comes to solo travel. When we are out with friends, there are typically things that we do that, I may have certain things in my checklist that I may not be able to do. Does that mean I don't enjoy trips with friends? No, it's a whole different memory altogether. It's special. When I'm by myself, it opens up opportunities. Like I was going to mention, I play this game called Ingress. Ingress is basically the same thing as, I don't know if you guys have heard Pokemon Go. So Ingress was basically out of the same engine, except it came 5 years before. It's where people get together in different places, basically, and it's augmented reality, and you're basically in two different teams and you're fighting. uh, Through travel, I've gone to exotic places just to do tournaments along with sightseeing associated with the game because it's augmented reality plus locations. And imagine if I had to drag all my friends to it. It'd be so boring. And the whole experience was mind blowing. Here we were strategizing, complete strangers, like some from Europe, some even from like this was in West Coast, and we had people from Canada, from East Coast, etc., etc. And it was insane. It's just each experience of traveling can be so unique, and I think they each have their own place. So I love
Exactly.
traveling with friends, but I also love solo travel.
yeah.
Wonderful thoughts. I think the conclusion is very clear. We love our solo travels, but we also love if people hang around with us. So we are meant for both things.
Just
On
find
that note,
something
yeah,
what you are
go on.
comfortable with. Just find something that you're comfortable. Like if you can find like a travel partner with whom your frequencies match, that's the best, right? Then you can explore, and there's like no all these hiccups. But if you are, it's with anything. Like if you're stuck with a relationship with someone with you don't vibe, it could be worse. The same with travel. So just choose your travel partner wisely if you want to, and if that doesn't happen and you still want to travel, then you travel solo. Simple.
Lovely. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for doing this. I know, Anwesha, you have to
Thank
hop on
you.
to your meeting. So I'll not drag you guys long. Thank you. And to all our listeners and viewers, thank you for these beautiful questions and for watching us. We do hope that you will take something useful from this discussion tonight. Till then, stay well, stay safe. I'll come
Is
back
this
with another
chai? What
episode.
is this? Is this chai? Is this chai? Oh, that's the chai
Where?
from the chai community and this. Oh,
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
actually chai. It's
It's
newspaper.
it's the logo.